Okay, it's Wednesday. Let's wrangle with Liz Storer.
Let's go.
Co-host of The Late Debate with me on set, and author, broadcaster and general man about Melbourne, Justin Smith, joins us from that great city as well. How about this, hey? We got the dirt file being unloaded on Peter Dutton. It's kind of predictable, Liz. This is basically how they got rid of ScoMo, with personal attacks, and they're struggling against Dutton. They're trailing in the polls, so they're just going the man.
Yeah, it's an election year. This is par for the course. Horses for courses. The Libs would be doing exactly the same thing if the shoe were on the other foot. This is what the parties do. And hey, if you've got it, you've got it. They know that they can ride on the back. And this is actually a sad fact about Aussies and our tall poppy syndrome. They can ride on the fact that there will be people who are jealous and despise Dutton for having been so successful with such a property portfolio, even though he's like, hey, I bought my first one in high school, like, give me a break. We started young and we've reaped the benefits. That is something that should be celebrated. That is something that's just like, oh, good for you, mate. You got in while the going was good. But they know that they can rely on a certain percentage of the population to be like, well, this stinks. But what actually does stink, I think, are those banking shares that he purchased. Previously, no share trading whatsoever, hadn't purchased any shares, and then the day before the government bailed out.
No, that's rubbish. That's rubbish. Hey, I was around then. There were banking guarantees and support for the banks being made every month at that time, and that was all in the paper.
You go for it. You two go for it.
But the timing seems miraculous.
No,
that is the day you decided to wait.
No. The first
the day before the
I've got to give Justin a go. I've got to give Justin a go. But the fact is, banking guarantees came in months earlier and kept being upgraded all the way through that period. Justin, this has got to backfire on Labor, isn't it? Because it also it brings people straight back, surely, to Copacabana and the beach house on the cliff. I mean, it's horses for courses.
Yeah. I was enjoying that little tussle. You didn't have to stop it on my on my account, mate. And I actually agree wholeheartedly with Liz. Aren't we sort of blowing this out of proportion here? This is a little bit all part of the rough and tumble of what you do in an election campaign. And let's not forget the office that Peter Dutton is going for here. He wants to become Prime Minister. Name me a Prime Minister that we didn't test out and ask these questions of and try and dig away. And yes, it is actually the job. Look, let's call this an election campaign. We're in one right now. It's the job of the Labor Party to go after the Liberal Party and back the other way. Isn't that what we want? Isn't that what we want them to do?
Well, no, not with a dirt file. They've got to stack it up, and it is a dirt file. And I'll name you one. Oh, let me think. Let me think back to a recent leader who didn't have his life scrutinised. Oh, Bill Shorten. It was that far back, like one Labor leader back. Let's go to Matt Kean, a former Liberal politician, the former New South Wales Liberal Treasurer and Energy Minister, climate evangelist, got a good job from the Labor Party. He's now worried that he might get sacked if Peter Dutton wins the Prime Ministership. He says, I'm not going to be bullied or silenced for standing up for the science and the evidence by Ted O'Brien, the opposition spokesperson, or anyone else. Nor will the reality of climate change be bullied or silenced by political pressure. This guy is a right toffer. If they win election, they should sack him the next day, surely.
I think they're more likely to just completely ignore the guy. I mean, this guy was always a turncoat, obviously. Check out his new position here. He's on a very good wicket there in terms of pay, the pay that he's getting. He doesn't want back in the parliament. He always wanted the power. This was always his passion project. I think they're more likely just to completely ignore the guy.
Yeah, he loves to talk about the science. This is a guy who's pretending his decisions are going to change the climate, Justin. He's going to change the climate. There's no science in that.
Oh, goodness me, somebody talking about science that's involved in climate change. Whatever the hell will we do in this world? I would say, yes, of course he's going to be worried about being sacked. There'd be a stack of people that would be worried, particularly in this area. In climate change, there'd be a stack of people that would be worried about Peter Dutton getting in that job, that they would get the sack. I think he's sort of put his cards on the table, how he feels about these things. So I think that's kind of fair, isn't it?
Look, if Casey's watching, I'd just like to say to Matt Kean, I know a bit about science. I've read a lot about the science, and you can put your little head to sleep at night knowing that whether you're sacked or not, It won't change the climate, mate. It won't change the climate. Let me go on to somebody else who's been saying silly things. Just a radio host on Triple M. He was talking about the Matildas soccer team, and have a listen to what he had to say.
You know what they remind me of? Year 10 girls. Now, I'm sorry to undermine the whole sport, but that's what I think of it, so you can stick it up your the Asian Cup. I'd rather hammer a nail through the head of my watch that. Got any men's sport?
Now, apparently he wasn't on air this morning, Justin. Everyone upset that he's demeaning women's sport. Well, yeah, if people want to demean women's sport, let them go ahead. I think it's pretty silly because, hey, presto, are men faster, stronger, taller than women? That's hardly a breakthrough. But so if you want to sort of demean women's sport, but he was just so crass and crude about it. Is that what people listen to over breakfast?
Oh. Well, look, let me paraphrase Marty Shergold here and say I'd rather hammer a nail through mine rather than listen to him on the radio. To be frank, you know, the funny thing is when he did the apology today, he pointed out that it was comedy. I think there's a bit of a rule in comedy: if you've got to point out that it's funny, it's probably not very funny. But women's sport is still in its infancy as far as popularity goes and trying to get the sponsorship dollar. They don't need the help of these kind of gags. I think they're up against it enough as it is, and to be poked fun of like that, I think most people are up for fair game. But look, the main thing is I'm offended as a radio host because it's just bloody lame.
It's pretty horrible stuff.
Yeah, if it's not your cup of tea, just say so. Yeah. Or if you can't say something nice, say nothing at all. This struck me as very Carl Sandilands.
Remember that?
Yes. Very Carl Sandilands-esque. That you've got to get insulting to try and make it kind of pithy. If anything, maybe he was trying to make a headline, but gosh, it's really flipped on him.
This just convinces me of why I listen to Radio National in the morning, where I just get infuriated by the leftism rather than having to put up with all this sort of crassness and shocking stuff. What have we got time for? We've got time very quickly to show you what they're doing in Wisconsin. I thought you'd be particularly interested in this, Liz, because this is a Democratic government in Wisconsin, and they're changing a lot of their words. They think the word mother should be changed to inseminated person.
Oh, speaking of crass, I mean, how's that?
How disgusting is that?
Utterly vile.
I thought Trump was putting an end to all this.
The most beautiful, wholesome thing in the entire world, and you want to take that word and turn it into inseminated person. This is utterly disgusting. I hope it's unsuccessful. And given the words that they've chosen, I'm sure even the left will be lost on that one. Just
before I let you go, I've got to show you this, a bit of Donald Trump. I think we can just write pictures or grab here. Just pictures. Donald Trump, there was the first tour since he's been president of the White House. What did Donald do? He wandered down and introduced himself to the crowd. Not only did they get to see the White House, they got to meet the Commander-in-Chief, which was fantastic. When he said goodbye... I'm
loving these fluffy little clips you're going to be digging up over the next 4 years, mate.
Winning you over.
We're right out of time. Stop wrangling. See you next week.